Welcome to the place where we learn about improv, 'cause public speaking can take you so far. Improv speaking, say yes and flex your creative thinking. Improv speaking, say yes and flex your creative thinking.
Woohoo! Welcome everyone to another amazing episode of the Improv Speaking podcast. I'm calling it now. I'm super confident about this. This will be an amazing episode. I know it already. Even though we haven't done it yet, I know it'll be truly amazing. I'm your host, Dana Gowan, and I'm so excited to have this episode today. We're just going to have so much fun because we are coming back from a conference that we did together, and we're going to do a whole debrief about how the conference went, how much everyone loved improv. It's going to be a blast. So buckle up. We're going to have a good time. For our new folks listening today, welcome. So excited that you're here. And for those who are joining again, here's a little refresher of what this podcast is all about. On this podcast, we have 3 goals in mind, although we accomplish more. 1, to help people understand the benefits of improvisation and applied improvisation. 2, to demonstrate how improv shows up in all aspects of our lives. And 3, to inspire people to try new things, get out of their heads and judgment zones, and find creative outlets and passions that can help them. So those are some tall goals and orders to fill, but I think we'll do it today for sure. Because let me tell you all about our awesome and amazing guest, Jessie Greenfield. Jessie is a health communicator, storyteller, and improviser from San Diego, California, and their pronouns are they, them, and theirs. Jessie started doing improv in college at Tufts University in Boston. And they have 8 years of experience as an improviser, which now Jessie leads applied improv workshops for adults and youth and the LGBTQIA plus community. Jessie has a master's of public health with a concentration in health communication and behavioral sciences from Tufts University School of Medicine and a Bachelor of Science in biopsychology. Who knew that was a thing? That sounds really tough and hard. Biopsychology with a minor in women's, gender, and sexuality studies from Tufts University as well. They are also NCHEC Certified Health Education Specialist, or CHES, as we know in the wellness world. I already said it, but most recently, we presented together as co-presenters at the Art and Science of Health Promotion Conference. And now we're going to get into it and debrief and chat all about that experience. Please welcome the super informative, imaginative, and inspirational Jessie Greenfield.
Wow, thank you so much for that incredibly generous and glowing introduction. It's such a blast to be here. I'm so excited to debrief the conference.
I'm so excited you're here, Jessie, and I'm glad we're doing this. So just full disclosure, we're doing this about a week after the conference ended. We'll release it a little bit later than that, but we're talking a week after. So it is all fresh in our minds to do this debrief. And I just have to say, I had so much fun with you last week. And I'm like having a little bit of conference withdrawals. Like I don't get to see you every day. It's weird.
I know, it was so nice to, in the ebb and flow of so many folks, it was so nice to have a buddy to do all of these things with and brainstorm with. And, if there were sessions that we both wanted to go to, we could, divide and both see what was going on. So yeah, I very much appreciated that too.
And I want to tell our listeners a little bit about how we met, because I think it's such a fun story. So we met through the Live Well Advance San Diego conference, which was virtual in 2021 when I did it. So I presented a session there called Guided Improvisation for Laughter, Fun, and Creativity. And full disclosure, that was my first session that I presented at or with a virtual conference. Like I was so excited. It's like, this is my first of many. And it was, but I was like, this is the first one. And I did the conference and like, I think 6 to 10 people attended. Like it was fun. It was worth it. It was great. I didn't really hear anything after that. And then like a week later, I got an email from Jesse saying that they weren't able to attend the session, but they were blown away by improv and wellness. Like, how is this a thing that can be combined? And then we chatted and we talked like every month. We became fast friends. And then we got to meet in person last year at the Art and Science of Health Promotion Conference, which was in San Diego. And we then collaborated, submitted a session for this year's conference, got it accepted, and then we presented 4 times at the conference last week. So what a wild and fun friendship that we've had. And I'm just so glad, Jesse, that you sent that email to begin with and reached out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you were presenting at the advance. Like I'm working at the county. I was supporting the advance more on the logistical end and, doing a bunch of health promotion work and having my like personal experiences of doing improv in high school and college. And so seeing your session, as you mentioned, totally changed my whole perspective about what health promotion could be. And yeah, you very generously shared this entire world that I didn't really know existed, but like could really dive into. I remember doing a lot of work. I was doing a lot of work with medical providers specifically and a lot of like compassion work. And you were like, you should definitely check out, this research and all of this stuff. And I've been on a deep dive ever since for the last, 2 years? It's been wonderful.
And it does feel like, I say 2021. I'm like, it feels like longer than that. And
Yeah.
I think COVID has made time stretch quite a bit, that everything felt a little longer. But we just connected on such a level. And I remember just chatting with you, being so excited about the possibilities. And I'm like, I'm going to send you all this stuff. And it was probably an overwhelming amount, but you just dived in and found your own niche and path on like how you want to present all this applied improv skills and knowledge to people. And I love that we've found our niches, but then also we can collaborate together too. So this is such a cool experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree.
Well, and before we get into all the conference debrief and chatting about how much fun it was, I did want to ask you, so you mentioned you did improv in high school and college. What drew you to improv in the first place?
Yeah, I did improv in high school and college, so it's been a while now. And I did not do theater or anything growing up, not a ton of performance arts, but I remember very much improv was a huge thing at my high school. Like all the cool kids were on the improv team and they would sell out whatever, the auditorium. And
Really?
yes, indeed. Yeah, Southern California. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Southern California. And so I remember walking around during a club fair, something like that. All the teams and clubs are trying to get you to join their stuff. And I remember the director of the improv team was like, you should definitely come out to audition. Yeah, I don't know. Just I've been known to have a chuckle or two. I pride myself on being fast on my feet. And so I was like, that sounds interesting. I don't know. That doesn't seem very much in my wheelhouse. But I feel like there was always an urge to defy some sort of expectations. And the improv team at my high school, and probably many other high schools and colleges and lots of places ever, was full of dudes. So many men. And I heard all these stories. At this time, I was presenting as a woman, and people were like, oh my God, girls aren't funny. Blah blah blah. I'm sure. I don't know if you've
How dare they?
heard that before, but I heard it relentlessly. So of course I had to audition for the team. Out of I can do it, and I can show you that I can do it. But ended up continuing in college for a similar reason. I thought I would stop, but it just roped me back in. My college improv team only had one person out of 8 who was not a man. And I was like, all right, I can, let me get in there. But, and that's how it started. But it took me on a super unexpected and beautiful journey to, really be able to explore myself and connection with others in like a safe and affirming environment that it wasn't the same experience as my high school experience, which was lots of, we told lots of snappy jokes. It wasn't super centered in connection, but after my freshman year of college, I was hooked. Like I was, with my improv team, Tufts Cheap Socks, shout out Cheap Socks. I love you infinitely.
Shout out.
Yeah, major shout out. We rehearsed like 8 hours a week together and, collaboratively building these worlds and in a way that was, we were doing like comedic and dramatic improv. I had never felt so connected to people, and to be able to, really create something together, just a group of people standing in a fluorescently lit room. We could do a whole musical, and we did. It was so connecting and grounding and deeply inspiring, and being able to not just prove that people who aren't men are funny. That was part of it.
Thank you.
Obviously.
Thank you for that, for
Yes,
proving that.
yeah. Had to do it. So many of us prove it. You prove it every day. And it's just so, it's been so wonderful to take it in from a personal space, a space of exploration in my own life, and to be able to share it and kind of merge it with my health promotion experiences. Because now that I've felt these beautiful experiences of being held in compassion and, creating, exploring, all of these things that I keep saying, these same words over and over again, to really be able to share that with others in a way that can be helpful and informative in their lives too. They don't have to be on a team doing this for 8 hours a week to still feel and experience these beautiful and connecting and silly things.
Oh, I love that journey. One, I love that your high school had that. Like, I would not have signed up in high school. I would have been way too in my head to even try. So kudos to you for doing that and accepting the challenge of proving that everyone can be funny, not just males and male presenting individuals.
Yes.
Everyone can be funny. And I just love the experience that you had from it. I remember talking at the conference and you were like, I feel so connected to the people that I practiced with and played with in improv in college. Like, you have such a special bond with those people, even though I assume you probably don't see them much anymore being outside of college. Like, you all have this bond that you created that honestly probably can't be replicated in many other ways.
No, I mean, I do still talk to a lot of them regularly. One of my friends just visited a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't live in the same city, but it's incredibly connecting. And I definitely owe a huge part of who I am today to those folks, because I never felt such a consistent and safe space to play and explore myself. Because in improv, as you know, you can do and be anything and have it completely affirmed and completely accepted. And I hadn't, I'd had experiences of acceptance before, but not in this consistent way where I genuinely knew that I could do anything and people would be completely on board and build on my world. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a very special type of bond.
Oh, I love that. I love how you phrased that too. That's wonderful. Well, shall we get into it about the conference and how it went?
I'm so ready. For the listeners at home, I'm cracking my knuckles.
We're ready. We're stretching. We're getting warm here, ready to chat about this. Well, so let me just set the scene for all of you. So we were very busy at this conference. We were super busy. And I think the busiest people were certainly the conference organizers. But we gave 4 presentations in the 3-day conference. We had 2 presentations on Wednesday and 2 on Thursday. We did a breakout session, which presented the research of applied improvisation, how it fits with health promotion, how it can apply to our careers. So that was more like research focused, although we added in some connection pieces to it. And then almost right after on Wednesday, literally like 20 minutes later, we did an hour activity session where we ran an hour full of games and improv exercises. And then we did it all again on Thursday. We presented that breakout session, and then we ran another hour of games and exercises, although we changed it up. So we did not run the same games and exercises. These were completely different. So I'm just patting myself on the back. We did pretty awesome, and we were quite busy at this conference.
We definitely were. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have, improv be so highlighted and have so much exposure, to be able to both really present the research and the grounding for why we're doing this, how we incorporate improv exercises into our work regularly, and then to be able to show people, okay, yeah, here's all the research, here's all the the slides that we've presented to you. And now to really be able to feel that in your body, I think really speaks to the whole point of applied improv and what we're trying to share is, you can only get so far with saying that people need to be compassionate on a PowerPoint slide. What you really, to really learn and really have that experience is to do it. So I think we really got to exemplify the heart of applied improv by presenting that research and then being able to really demonstrate it.
Yeah, I think that's the key piece is practicing, right? Like you said, like it is easy enough for us to say we need to have more empathy. We need to be compassionate in the workplace, in our jobs, whatever industries and sectors they are. But until you actually experience it and practice it, it's really hard to understand how to exemplify those things. And, our session certainly did that. I saw other sessions that did that as well. And I think the key piece, the key theme I saw in the conference was connection. Connection was a big buzzword throughout the conference.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, yeah, speaking of buzzwords, I feel like a lot of the principles of improv and the things that we are talking about and how important they are, they're all buzzwords, or it's easy to say we need to be flexible or make sure you're present today. Like all of these things are like, okay, we know we need to do them, maybe. Like we know we need to communicate effectively and all of these things, but to really practice, like you mentioned, is so crucial, and see how they can actually fit into your life and how those skills work for you in your body and in your brain.
Yeah, so I'll share with you all our basic outline of what we did for our breakout session, and then we'll dive a little deeper too. But at the beginning, we shared general definitions of improvisation, some loose principles of improv that you will see on the stage, like yes and, first thing, best thing, make your scene partner look good, look at mistakes as opportunities to learn. And then we shifted gears, and Jesse presented and shared some of the research that is out there to support applied improvisation and how it helps in different industries. And then we led two different exercises. One was move stop, and one was accept this, which is like a yes and type of game. And then we just wrapped it up with a nice discussion on how this can apply to our work lives and personal lives. And Jesse, I wanted to ask you, would you want to talk more about some of the research too that we highlighted in this session?
Yeah, that sounds great. I love this research, and I think it's I'm an evidence-based kind of human. And I mean, when Dana and I first met, and when you introduced me to all of this world, the applied improv world, and you're like, don't just take my word for it, there's a lot out there. I went on such a deep dive and got completely immersed in this world that's so deeply interesting to me. So I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak about it, because I think that's the thing. I thought initially, especially going into this work, like, are people going to take me seriously when I tell them that we need doctors to play games? Like, I know that it's more complicated than that, obviously, but I really, felt like we needed some sort of a grounding, especially in a very evidence-based world, which is great, to be able to have that kind of grounding. So, all the things that we spoke about, all the principles of improv, how they relate to all the skills that we can build. Like we touched on different skills mostly. So, we talked a lot about how improv can really bolster resilience. And we gave an example from a study on medical improv on, how medical students who are taking improv classes, have certain certain features that really enhance their resilience as they go on to, work in this really high intensity medical profession. Factors of resilience include like tolerance of uncertainty. When there are multiple options are swirling around you, realizing that we might not have all the information, how to still move forward with that, how to be very present and mindful, how to collaborate and have self-awareness. We talked a lot about also communication skills and how improv is super helpful for communication. And in the field of health promotion specifically, the research we presented was about improv and health promotion. I'm sure you've spoken about this before. Applied improv is happening in almost every field, I feel like, across the board. But we limited our scope to health promotion specifically. So with communication, it's especially complicated science and health information, to really be able to, boil that down and make it into something that people can understand, which is going to look like so many different things, right? There's not one way to present information that everyone will understand. So working on these skills and really understanding how to send and receive information, and what that looks like and feels like for ourselves, like the way that we present information, even down to our body language, what we're saying, how we're saying it, all of those things can really be honed and worked on through improv. And I think it really boils down to self-awareness. There's a lot of the research that's like improv as self-awareness is huge because, you're learning, like you said, for the first thing that comes out of your mouth is the best thing. Noticing like, what tends to come out of my mouth? What is my face doing when I say it? Like all of these self-awareness pieces are so crucial to communication that can really, in a health promotion context, be so either impactful or connecting or disconnecting and confusing and isolating. So the research, on those pieces are really strong. And there's so much more that I could talk about literally infinitely, but I think I'll leave it there for now.
I love the passion you have for the research because I like research that it supports, and I won't say proves because we don't say that it proves, but it provides evidence that these programs and applied improvisation really does help enhance these skills. However, I am 10 years out of school plus at this point, and my love for research has definitely waned a little bit. And so I love that you have the passion for research and you spoke about it so well just now and at the conference too. So thanks for taking that up and really shining a light on it for our audience to see.
Of course, that's why we're a team. We have different strengths that we can all contribute.
I love that. Yeah, and I was sitting at breakfast on Friday, so that Friday was like our day off. We were like, whew, we are done. Like it is our party day on Friday because we were almost delirious at that point. By Thursday night, we were a bit delirious because we had just had so much fun the past 2 days. But I was sitting at breakfast on Friday with a group of people I just met, and someone said, "Oh, you led the improv session. I've taken improv classes before. I love it. But how does improv relate to resilience? Because resilience was in our title." I actually joked that we had one of the longest titles, although I think there were longer titles, but the title of our presentation was "The Wisdom of Not Overthinking: How Applied Improvisation Can Enhance Intellectual Humility, Communication, and Resilience." So they were like, how does improv relate to resilience? And I said, in so many words, I wish you were sitting next to me because I think you would have said it much better. But I was like, it's the uncertainty of it. It's dealing with uncertainty and being able to handle things that come up on the spot and on the fly and not stressing about it and not getting in our heads about it. It's that resilience factor that, happens in every improv scene on stage and every improv scene in life too.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like it it really bolsters a lot of protective factors that lead to resiliency, right? Like resiliency is not like a static thing. It's all these factors that contribute to our ability to be resilient. And I think a thing that I didn't really mention, but is huge, is collaboration and building on relationships. Having, like you mentioned earlier, having connected relationships is a huge, huge factor, protective factor for resiliency. And like allows for more things to blossom from that. Like another huge factor is called divergent thinking, which is the potential to consider multiple creative solutions to a problem, which is something that we practice in improv, and is something that is huge to resilience, to be able to be innovative and know that you're going to maybe be in a supportive environment with the folks that you're connected to. All of that is super, super crucial for resilience, at least in the research on the medical professionals that I was reading about.
Yeah, and I think that spans to real life applications. We're all dealing with this uncertain world, and it's tough out there. And I mean, I struggle with this too, especially after COVID or during COVID, after COVID. My anxiety level went up so high, and I'm not diagnosed with anxiety, although I've been asked before, like, are you sure you're not on anxiety medication? I can feel it though. Like, I am a more anxious person now post COVID because of COVID and everything that went on. And to have these improv skills, I won't say that decreases it completely, but having these skills in mind, I'm like, yes, I can deal with uncertainty. It is okay to not know the answers to everything. And I trust that I will get through this. I trust my skills to get through this situation. And improv really helped me learn that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I feel like similarly, because I've had periods of my life where I'm practicing improv, right? Like 8 hours a week, and also some where I'm not practicing at all. I definitely, after graduating college, was not practicing for a bit, including, pre-vaccine pandemic, when lockdowns were happening. And I definitely noticed, and now I'm getting more back into it. And I notice, when I am consistently practicing, the amount of uncertainty I feel like I'm able to hold, the amount of, knowing that I'll be able to adapt to whatever comes my way, is really different when I am constantly practicing these skills in this type of setting versus when I'm not. So it's very interesting to notice that.
Well, and I'm struggling to even say it. Intellectual humility was a big focus of the conference. I mean, that was the theme of the conference, is how to have more and improved intellectual humility. And I know, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but can you just tell our non-wellness people what
Yes.
intellectual humility is and how we related applied improv to it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when we read that this was the theme of the conference, we were like, okay, we're in.
Yes.
Great. This
Yeah.
is like, yeah, this is
our jam.
improv gold. Yeah. Precisely. Because intellectual humility is the opposite of someone who's like, I know everything and my beliefs are fixed. It is being able to take in new information that maybe change your beliefs and update your beliefs. Like, for example, a non-improv example, I know you mentioned my biopsychology degree earlier. I love brains. And, even though we know a good amount about the human brain, there's so much that we don't know. And I remember that my favorite professors and the ones that I trusted the most, my like neuroscience professors, were the ones who presented the information, and they're like, we're learning new things all the time. I'm going to teach you this because it's what we know right now, but please be prepared to scrap all of it and take in something new when we get more information, which is really the crux of research and how science really moves. It's a very flexible and living thing versus a static, fixed belief. And I think when we are continuously learning and growing and able to be intellectually humble and know that our deeply held beliefs are subject to change, that is a way to continuously be learning and growing. So in the field of wellness and health promotion, I mean, my master's degree is in health communication, health promotion. I really am thinking of intellectual humility in this vein, when you're trying to share information to the public or your client or whoever you're working with, instead of maybe a more fixed idea of communication going, I'm going to deliver this information to you. Like, I have the information, here it is for you. It's more of a goal of trying to create a shared understanding in partnership with another person. It's recognizing that we are, collaboratively creating things, as well as being open to new ideas and change from others, from the outside world, incorporating our lived experiences, incorporating research. The world is very complex. The world is very dynamic. So to be able to survive in it, this intellectual humility is so crucial, especially if we're noticing, hey, maybe the way that things are happening aren't really working. And I think we've learned that and seen it very intensely in the last couple of years. And so, where do we go from there? How do we take that this new information that we're getting and really incorporate it and roll with it and recognizing it as the truth, as valued knowledge? So I really appreciated that this was the theme of the conference and loved that we got to share, all that I shared and more about how that's so, so important to our, jobs as health promotion professionals.
Yeah, I just thinking of like how intellectual humility was not a thing during COVID. I mean, as a whole, people were not as welcoming of like information changing. We had high expectations of, the knowledge and what we needed to know. We needed to know it quickly. And in a pandemic, it is just hard to know. And I don't want to go down the COVID hole and all of the politics and science of it, but just recognizing that I think we are from COVID, because of COVID, we are on this upswing of needing more intellectual humility. I'm just going to struggle to say it the whole time. Intellectual humility and connection and diversity and divergence and acceptance. Like, we're on this upswing of just needing more of that completely. And who's to say, if it'd be the same without COVID, but that's an alternate reality that none of us get to live anyway. So here we are.
Right. Absolutely. And I think the skills that we are working on in improv are really like the tools that are crucial to help people be able to hold this uncertainty, to hold because we can hold multiple conflicting truths at once. And
right.
I understand that things like trauma, things like, being incredibly overwhelmed make it very difficult to hold multiple truths, to be intellectually humble. So to really work with folks to give people these tools and these skills for intellectual humility will really be able to kind of bolster this new intake of knowledge for folks and to really be able to help folks be flexible.
Yeah. And going back to something you said earlier too, about how these are very innate skills. Like, these aren't these crazy elaborate skills. Like, we know these skills of saying yes and dealing with uncertainty and getting out of our heads and judgment zones and just allowing ourselves to be who we are. Like, all that is so common sense sounding, right? But it is harder to do than say. And I will say, just in chatting with you and our prep work that we did for these sessions, one thing I struggled with was the two exercises that we offered during the breakout session. We obviously did not just we wanted to talk about the research. We wanted to make it known that this research is out there, but we also wanted to put in some connection elements too and interactivity. But I was getting all in my head going like, well, we need to do these awesome, profound exercises. And, we ended up doing move stop, which I love. I love move stop, but it is essentially like Simon Says. It's kind of like backwards Simon Says. And, literally everyone can play this game. And then we did a very simple yes and exercise. And I was struggling with, well, are they too simple? Right? Like, is this too simple for, like, do we need people to do harder exercises to be able to understand? And you're like, no, like, the simpler, the better. Right?
Oh, completely. I think especially because if improv is new to folks, to really give an accessible entry point is huge. And yeah, I feel like
Yes.
we can demonstrate so much of what we're talking about with the most simple exercises. Like I also I've taught improv to elementary school kiddos, and I will use the same exercises that I use with my 9-year-olds with doctors. And, of course they play them differently, but those skills are still so crucial in both. And I think what you mentioned is so true, that we have had these experiences of feeling flexible, or all the skills that we worked on. We have that within us to be able to do it. But I think there are so many things that can keep us away from that, feeling fried and overwhelmed, feeling unsafe. So I
Yes.
think really acknowledging where people are at and where people are coming from, coming into an improv space, or, if you're going to go work on a wellness program with someone, recognizing what the folks who are in your program are working with and coming to you with. Because yeah, and with the simpler the better. If people are fried, overwhelmed, they don't feel safe in their workspace, how do you facilitate, a space where they can be, working on the skills to make them intellectually humble and all of the stuff that we've been speaking about? I think the simpler the better, because it's also so empowering. I've loved, most of the time when I lead these applied improv workshops, I would say actually almost 99% of the time, people have never done improv before. And
Right.
sometimes I get a little hesitation. People will tell me that they're nervous, which I'm always appreciative when people share that with me. That's very vulnerable. But I think then the beauty is to be able to show them very quickly, with simple exercises, like, you're doing this, like, you completely did this. And like, we were talking about this after our second activity session. By the end of it, we led a game called Character Swap, which is kind of an
Yeah.
advanced improv game, but we didn't set it up like that. We started with simpler activities, and we kind of built them up to give more complexity, and I watched their confidence grow, and they're noticing that everyone else in the group was trying things. It felt safe, it felt comfortable. So they absolutely crushed this advanced
Yeah, they
improv
did.
guys. Yeah, it was incredible to watch. And I think, like, yeah, setting it up and creating that space with the most simple exercises are so powerful. But it does feel surprising. You're like, how can this work? If we play Simon Says, how do you get a group of people to then fully open up? But it's pretty magical.
It really is. And I think just the fact that it's not us going womp 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 up there for an hour. Like, they got to stand and they got to talk to someone next to them. And it wasn't so much like a role play exercise. I've talked about this before. Like, we were not like, turn to the person next to you and role play a situation. It's like, just say a neutral statement. That was the exercise for accept this. Say a neutral statement, and then the other person has to give a big reaction and a big emotion to that statement. And a lot of people said they struggled with even coming up with a neutral statement. That is how much we're in our heads these days going, what's a neutral statement? What's the best neutral statement? The sky's blue. No, everyone knows that. Oh, stupid. Like, that's how far in our
Yeah.
heads. And then thanks for reminding me to keep it simple and provide an accessible entry point too. I like that phrase.
Oh, of course. It's so fun. And I think you've totally, like, touched on something important and very interesting to me, with, like, improv not being role playing. When I especially talk about improv work with social workers or the medical professionals that I keep referencing, people think that we're doing role play, but it's something much sillier than that. And it's something where you're able to really make mistakes, or not make mistakes, but to be really creative. And what I love about applied improv is then the opportunity to do these really silly or really, really simple exercises so that people can get out of their heads into their bodies. And then afterwards, the juicy debrief is where we can, even in the most simple exercises, we can do accept this, right, for a minute. And I did that game also at a families of queer and trans kids conference. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
it was wonderful. So this was the warm up I did to kind of lead into a workshop on how to support and accept your the queer and trans kids in your life. So there were families and some like professionals doing this work. And this is a simple exercise. You literally just give a neutral statement and then have the other person over accept with big emotion. And we talked at length about how this felt to them and what this would be like if they were like this more with their kids. And it was a really quick and easy entry point into, the crux of what we came to talk about. But I don't think, at least personally, people would have been nearly as vulnerable or willing to share with people that they had just met these really intimate and vulnerable things. But, now that we had done something kind of silly, we'd already shown each other, because it was a safe space to show emotions that, are coming from us, but they're not exactly ours. Like, people would always tell me when I would perform improv, like, I can't believe you could get up there and say all of that. I'm like, yeah, it's me, but those were characters saying all of those things. So it's okay. So, when you have that kind of improv mask, it enables you to both be really vulnerable while kind of having this layer of play and knowing that you're using imagination play to explore. So it really opens up the gate for, we've already shared emotions. It wasn't, it was my character and your character, but now maybe me as a person and you as a person can connect more, that we've been in that kind of setting together.
Wow, I love that. That is a whole new layer of applied improv that I haven't even considered, like the emotional mask that we're putting on as characters, but yet we still get to have them as people. Wow, that's a whole other conversation. I mean, that's brilliant though. I mean, like you said, we use words like silly to describe improv, or simple if you don't like the word silly, if you're like too serious for silly. It's simple. But at the heart of it, we're using play to actually get to these deeper layers of conversation and emotions that we don't share. And of course, like, either we don't feel safe to share, or it's not appropriate to share, or whatever the case may be. But we're allowing space for people to share these things in silly, simple, and playful ways. That's amazing. Bravo.
Thank you. I mean, I can't take full credit for it, of course. This is, discourse I've heard from the applied improv world, and I definitely would love to shout out one of my favorite books, which is Improvising Gender by Stephen Davidson. Would definitely recommend, if you haven't read it. I can mail my copy to you if you want. It's fully marked up. Basically, Stephen talks a lot about this improv mask that we all put on, which is so similar to a gender mask, and talks a lot about the ways in which, when we are doing improv, when we're doing improv exercises, how we can play with gender, and how, when that's relevant, when that's not, and, thinking of it as a way to explore and a way to connect. And I think it really is the same with, these parents that I was working with, and what we just talked about, like how this mask really enables us to get into deeper feelings about ourselves and the way that we're connecting with other people. So thank you, Stephen. You're brilliant.
Yeah. I'm blown away by all the aspects that this field has, and like the infinite possibilities that we have. I mean, we're brushing the surface in health promotion, and that's kind of our wheelhouse, right? Like, we both have our masters of public health. Like, health promotion is our jam. It's our thing. We love wellness. We want everyone to be healthy. But I mean, the world of applied improv, I mean, it really can benefit everyone. And so we're just brushing the surface. Like, we're starting out with health professionals, but look out, world. Everyone can benefit from this. We're coming for you.
Oh, completely. And I think it's so interesting to hear about the work that's being done in other fields. And what's so beautiful about it is that it really all boils down to the same principles that, we keep referencing, right? Like, in every field, how helpful is connection? How helpful are effective communication skills? All of that really can, because it's such a personal thing, it can span to every field as well. So there's so much out there, which is so exciting.
Well, and I've just, a week after the conference, I'm feeling so excited and inspired. I want to ask you, Jesse, how do you feel it went first with let's talk the breakout sessions. How do you feel it went with the Wednesday one and the Thursday breakout session?
I am incredibly happy and thrilled with the reception that we got.
Yes.
I feel like, especially, not that applied improv is anything new and improv for health promotion is nothing new. I know in our breakout session, we cited an article about using improv as a health promotion technique from 1995. So, it is not brand new, but I think it's still new in a lot of spaces. Like it's not something that has happened at the Art and Science of Health Promotion conference before you brought it there last year, So I think having a breakout session to be able to really show what we're talking about, why this is helpful, was so great. And I think it really piqued a lot of folks' curiosity. So yeah, I think we had incredible attendance on both days. I was super thrilled, and not just attendance, but active participation. I know we were asking, some participation from people, our participants, when we had those couple activities that you mentioned before. So people were so willing, and maybe a little hesitant at first, especially on the very first day. I think the very first day of the conference, people are like, I don't know anyone here. I don't know what's going on. These people want me to do a silly thing. I thought I would just learn about improv. But as soon as we did that first activity, move, stop, people really loosened up and were actively participating. And I think the second day was definitely a higher energy. People seemed more connected to each other. Also, I think it was earlier in the day, so people were a little more awake and alive. And I also heard a lot of folks who mentioned that they'd talked to people who were participants of the session the day before. So they came in maybe having some clear expectations. They knew they were going to play some games. People were coming to that for something specific, or even if not, they were like, oh, I heard your session was really fun, or I heard your session was really interesting, which was a beautiful ego boost, and also really affirming that there is interest and excitement around this topic. So I think both went super well. I saw a lot of people taking notes, a lot of, nodding heads. So yeah, I think it went great. What about you? How'd you think it went?
Same. And I do love that we got to present it twice and it wasn't just a one and done thing, because you learn as you go. And our first session, we ended up doing 2 exercises, which were great. We did the move, stop, and accept this. We had other exercises that we were pretty sure we wouldn't have time for just in an hour session, but we put them up on the presentation just to show people, like, here are examples. And then also to kind of plug and promote our activity session that was an hour later on the first day. But I could feel it that the audience wanted more. Like, and even some said, like, can we do another one? And we're like, well, come to the activity session, which, some people just can't, or whatever, for whatever reason. We understand that. So it was nice then to have a second chance with our next session on the Thursday to do it again. And then we slipped in one more exercise. And that actually felt like, okay, rule of threes in comedy, like in public speaking, like rule of threes, it actually worked really well. And it was like a nice little button to do that third exercise. So it's just, it was nice to trial and error. And then also, okay, here's an improvement we can make quickly and easily. And we did. And I think we felt it like, okay, that was nice for next time. Now we know.
Absolutely. And I think something so beautiful about us being improvisers and presenting is that we're able to kind of match the energy, or to really respond to what it seems like the participants are needing or wanting in that moment, right? Like, I loved being able to hear more about what the individuals in the audience were doing in their work, so we could make the presentation more applicable to them. And, the types of questions people were asking were really informative about what to talk about next, what to focus on. And same with having the first day inform the second day, we kind of noticed, okay, yeah, a lot of these types of folks were in the audience. Maybe we need that extra game. Maybe we need to focus more in our debriefs of the games this type of feeling or this type of work. So I think it was really great to have that adaptability and learn from our first session to be able to apply those things to the second session.
Well, and I'll just add that I feel like I've really grown just in my self-reflection. I feel like I've grown a lot as a speaker because I will say, we mentioned like the Wednesday one, people loved, okay, but it was a bit lower energy. And I recognize that. It was the timing of it. It was the last session of the day. They had lunch, had another session, and then we were standing between them and doing whatever else they wanted at the conference. As a newer speaker, I would have been in my head going, oh, they hate it. Like, we got a lot of feedback. It just, compared to the second day, there was a lot more energy because we were right after the keynote. So there was a lot of energy bounding and bouncing around. So anyway, I reflect on like how much of a stronger speaker I am to recognize it's not me and it's not even them. It's just like the circumstances of the timing, and it's fine. We did a great job. It is what it is, and I accept it.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think it went great.
Totally. I agree.
But I hear you. That's super crucial to like we mentioned before, meeting people where they're at, noticing, okay, if there's a lower energy, maybe we don't have to play some more games, or like if we don't have time for it, that's okay. Like we don't have to force anything. We want this to be helpful and informative, not like we have to perform the best, you know.
Right, exactly. Well, and switching now to the activity sessions, so that we were kind of discussing the breakout sessions, which were more research focused with a tiny little hint of games just to like pique their interest. And then the activity sessions were a full hour of exercises and games. And some examples of the games we did, we played Yes, Let's, which is where we walk around the room and someone's like, let's go swimming. And we all say, yes, let's. And then we do a swimming movement that we're doing right now as we're recording this. We also played Give a Gift. We did Last Letter, First Letter, and Time Traveler, Exercise, Character Swap we mentioned earlier. I'm throwing out all these terms like you know, but all that to say, we did a ton. We probably did about 5 to 6 exercises per hour session. And we debriefed afterwards and we talked about how this applies a little bit. And then we moved on to the next exercise. Jessie, how did you feel those went?
Oh, they were so fun.
So fun.
They were so great. Nice, especially because these were sessions that were both at the end of the day. So it was so nice. The days were long days. There was so much good information and so many connections all throughout the day that by the end of it, I was quite sleepy. So not sure how it was going to go, but I left both of those sessions feeling so energized, which I feel like is a lot of the beauty of this type of improv work. I frequently leave feeling, like I have way more energy than I came in with. And I was so appreciative of the folks who, took the time to come out. We were not close to the rest of the conference, so people had to walk and find us in this like basement dungeon, but they did. They found us. And I think it went beautifully. People were really participatory and willing to engage with each other and, meet new people and connect. And I think especially after a day of a lot of very serious conversations, to really let go and kind of lean into a human, silly side. Not that we weren't all connecting as human people doing self-promotion, but there's a really a personal element to it that is so beautiful. And I really loved, similar to the breakout session, but I loved hearing, what people were doing, what people's takeaways were, because that's always the beauty for me, right? Like we can run the same exercises for every workshop we ever do, but everything is going to be completely different because of the people that we have in the room as well as what their takeaways are. And I think it was so awesome to hear people who both personally were like, I'm going to go join an improv team now. Which
yes.
Yeah, that was cool. But also folks who were like, oh, professionally, I see exactly how this is going to apply and I'm going to bring this to X, Y, and Z. Like really, really hearing about the impact that these silly games that we played can make are really huge and really exciting to me. So I'm excited. I feel like it's anything like these types of activity sessions really give me so much energy and excitement for more. I feel like it's a continuous growth kind of thing. Cause yeah, who knows where these exercises can lead people and where these connections can lead. Cause now we have a bunch of more new friends.
We do. We have a bunch more friends now, which is so great. And one thing that came up for me in the activity sessions were we gave a little handout with some core and key takeaways that were kind of highlighted throughout the exercises, but we leave a little bubble open for people to put in whatever else they took away or another lesson learned. And one thing that actually came up that hasn't before, although I see it, was we were talking about the limitations that we put on ourselves. And I can't remember what exercise it was, but it was on the first day. We were really talking about like all these self-imposed limitations that we're creating in our heads that aren't even there. Like we can push those limitations outward or even like let them disappear and just have this reign to just accept ourselves and like explore. And that was something new that really came up for me. I was like, oh, we could put this on the takeaways handout next time because that is a thing that we're discussing and it just hadn't really come up before. So I loved that piece of it.
Oh, absolutely. Me too. And I think something that speaks on that point and expands is yes, and accepted Bill, is that folks were feeling so excited and relieved to kind of lean back into the imagination play that we did as kids. And that was coming up a lot also in the first session. People kept mentioning like, oh my gosh, I feel like either I'm a kid again or I'm with my kids when they were young, like that kept coming up. And I think that's the self-imposed limitations we put on ourselves to be serious grown-ups, or if we're going to go play with our friends, maybe it doesn't look like the kind of imagination play we need tools, we need, I don't know, we have to go do something or go to a place. But we were just a bunch of people in a room in a basement dungeon of a very fancy hotel.
Very fancy hotel.
With nothing but our gorgeous brains and the like willingness to play and be open. And I think that was so exciting to me that people were realizing like, oh yeah, we're playing these games. These are really simple games. Maybe I could do this with my friends or my family or, you know, people that I love, to more deeply connect with them or even just to hang out and have fun. I think on a personal level, that was really exciting to me because I think infusing play into our work and our lives is, you know, a huge, huge, huge protective factor. If we're going to make it a health promotion thing, a huge protective factor our health. We know this. There's so much research. But also it's just fun. Like it's just a beacon of joy that can really spread. You know, it's something that we've both benefited from personally, right? Being in more performance improv settings and feeling that kind of joy and that energy that I spoke about. Like I feel like that that post improv glow is really radiant, and I can really share that and spread that with people even if I'm not doing improv with them. You know, joy is in the air, you know, when someone is really feeling it. So I think these types of experiences are so huge, and an hour activity session with a bunch of strangers who became friends are, you know, is a huge piece of how to do that, and sharing these skills and this type of joy that we've been able to experience with others is like why I love doing this work. It's so fun.
I just want to share that this is basically what we talked about each night at dinner time too. Like essentially all this that we talked about, like how much fun we're having, how great this was. So you're getting a little glimpse of that too. But it really, as you said before, it's magical. It's a beacon of joy. It's a beacon of play. And you mentioned yes and inadvertently, and then realized, oh yeah, that was essentially yes and there, which is a growth mindset too. So Jesse, I want to ask you, where do you see this, coming from this conference? What are the next steps you see, and where do you see this journey taking you?
Oh, me or us?
Well, that's very collaborative of you both. Yeah. So let's chat. Like, what do you think for next year? I know we were talking about submitting a session, and
Of
what are you
course.
thinking for next year? Some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved this conference. I went last year to go to your session, which was amazing, and again this year, of course. Um, I think the energy and excitement that we were feeling from so many folks who were there really says that there needs to be more, right? And we
Yeah.
even though we were very busy, we did our 2 breakout sessions, 2 activity sessions, we've just scraped the surface
Oh,
of what
totally.
is possible. I think continuing in this vein, continuing to deepen, because yeah, we've stayed at a very high level overview, and I think over the years to continue with this group of folks to be able to deepen the understanding and deepen the practice will be huge, as well as I feel like the big bulk of this work at this point is just spreading the word, is getting people to do some of these activities with us, and seeing those light bulb moments happen, seeing people wanting to take this back to their workplace or their home. I think just kind of sharing more about what applied improv is and what it can do, because again, it's not a new thing, but it's still a thing that not a lot of folks know about and have experience with. So I feel like our journey can be one of a sharing this understanding and also a deepening. And I feel like personally, I've really loved doing applied improv work, specifically in the healthcare space, like the direct service space with doctors, nurses, medical professionals, other hospital staff, to really get at honing in these skills that are not often practiced and learned in medical school. These exercises that work on flexibility and communication and compassion. And I love doing exercises with doctors where we examine power dynamics and really get to the crux of
Yeah.
how to be effective communicators, because it's not just fun and feel good, which it is, but also like these are life-saving skills that when medical professionals have them, we can catch more things. People can feel heard and seen and understood and safe enough to share information with their doctor that maybe they don't feel safe to share right now. So I've also really enjoyed and want to do more of working in applied improv for this group of people, and like this group of people in supporting queer communities as well as working in queer communities. I live in San Diego, and I'm very much in all the spaces in my queer community here, and have really enjoyed the community classes that I've led, because as you mentioned earlier when we were talking about isolation and communication lapses during the pandemic, I work with a lot of youth, and also a lot of queer youth, and not just youth, older grown-ups too, but people feeling really disconnected, really isolated, or
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to find community, and for various reasons. And for a lot of times, finding community is not very safe. Like, I remember coming to San Diego, and I was like, I'm going to try improv again. I'm new to the city. I'm going to make some friends. And I went to an improv workshop, and I did not feel safe there as a
Oh,
queer and
that's so
trans person,
unfortunate. Yeah.
which was incredibly unfortunate. So, and I'd heard a call when I'd shared that I do improv and we're leading these activities for doctors. My community members were like, wait, you should do that for us though. And I have been, and it's been such a joy to be able to give that space to others, because like, as I mentioned before with my college improv team, that space to collaboratively create and build worlds together, to explore yours and others' identities in a way that is affirming, because whatever you say, people are gonna yes and you. And that was huge in my own gender journey. Like when I started doing improv, I did not identify as queer and trans. And I feel like through being able to try on different, ways of being in the world, different names, different pronouns, different species, like different existences, you really get to see what resonates with you, what feels good. And to be completely affirmed in that is like the most beautiful experience. So I think sharing that with queer communities who don't always, I mean, a lot of folks do get to feel beautifully affirming things, but I feel like to really create that kind of space, and I'd love for it to be a more regular space, but to create that space also for play and levity. I feel like there's so much seriousness and so much, I don't know, I can't open any social media app without like reading something very horrible that's happening like in my community. And so a space for us to just play and laugh and explore and be ourselves and be really goofy is so glorious. So that's where I see it going. I'm hoping, I think this conference has opened a lot of doors, so I'm excited to see where it all leads.
I love it. Say yes and push past those self limitations, or even like pull them down. The world is limitless, so don't let anything limit you, because all these are amazing, and just the communities that you can reach and affect are awesome. It's so necessary and so helpful too. So I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels really good, and like again, feel so happy to share the things that I've been experiencing.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that the conference was open to it. I apply to other conferences and either I don't hear anything back or it doesn't get submitted, and it's a little different, it's a little out there. So I'm grateful for the conference. One, and they said yes last year to allowing me to do an activity session. And then we added this year to a breakout session, and the reach that we got, because the activity sessions, like you said, are at the end of the day. So we get like 5 to 10 people who come, which is great. And we get a nice small core group, and it's very meaningful and impactful. But the reach that we had this year with a breakout session at the conference, we reached a lot more people with this knowledge and information now. And that was cool to see.
Yes, absolutely. Completely agree.
Well, Jesse, I had an amazing time. I had a blast, and I'm rooting for you, and I can't wait to collaborate again. I'm like acting like we're never going to see each other. I can't wait to collaborate again on this conference and other conferences. I think we work really well together as a team too. So I loved every minute of working with you. And I know our listeners are loving you right now. Like, how can I find out more about them? Please share with our listeners. Where can they find out more about you?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again so much for having me. I loved this conversation. I learned so much from talking with you. And like, I feel like you ask very insightful questions. It deepened my own understanding when I had to think about those answers. I very much am budding my applied improv portfolio and ways to contact me. Website is coming. But in the meantime, you can reach out to me at jessiegreenfieldimprov@gmail.com. Dana will put that in the thing so you can know how to spell my little name. And I think in the meantime, that's the best place to reach me. Feel free to send me an email. Would love to hear from you. If you have any questions about anything you heard, or if anything resonated, I love talking about this kind of stuff. So any new connection, I'm immensely excited about and grateful for.
Yes. And, I'll just add, when I was first starting out, like 2 years ago, I would be very much in my head like, oh, I don't have a website and I don't have an email address that's for improv and stuff. And I would think that would limit me. And it really doesn't. Like you said, you're a budding improv facilitator. Like, you're learning as you go. You don't have to have all the websites and emails yet. Like, you're putting yourself out there. We're getting out there, and just keep putting yourself out there because it's needed, and those things will come too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think just figuring out how to all the logistics behind it is where I'm at now, but I've been loving all the facilitation work I've been able to do in all sorts of domains. So super excited about that. Super excited to work together more in the future. And who knows what'll come out of it from our intellectually humble brains.
Well, and no need to limit ourselves, which we're not. So I think they open proposals for the conference in May. So we will definitely be submitting again, and we're going to look at other conferences. One thing I think we'll explore is we got a lot of questions on how can others facilitate these games and exercises. So we are exploring that, like how to teach people to lead these, because everyone can lead these. It's all about setting the safety, though, and making sure you're not just like being kind of, I hesitate to use the term clown because it is an official term, but like kind of cartoony, like, okay, we're going to play some improv games today, kind of thing. Like, people don't want that. You've got to get them feeling safe and a part of the group before you throw like really tough things at them. So teaching people how to do that, and I think it's totally doable. So we are exploring that aspect too.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited to see where it goes.
Well, yes, and Jesse, let's do it. Thanks again. I'm just going to throw it out there. We'll do this again next year after we debrief our session at the conference or other conferences too. So this will not be the last time you are on the Improvly Speaking podcast.
Well, I'm excited to come back. Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. And thank you for listening today and joining us for this special episode. I think it's so cool that we did the whole conference thing and we're debriefing about it. And it really, truly was an amazing experience. So I want to give a shout out, first of all, to the Art and Science of Health Promotion Conference. This year it was held in Colorado Springs at the beautiful Broadmoor Resort and Hotel. I mean, my goodness, that was definitely one of the nicest hotels I've ever stayed in. And it was just a wonderful place to have a conference. And then I'll just add that the conference ended on Friday, and I parlayed it a little bit into a vacation. So I went to Denver for the weekend and met my husband there. And it was really nice. It was a nice time, nice excuse to take a little trip and vacation after a long few days at the conference and a lot of learning and connecting. So I really enjoyed it. So grateful again to the conference for accepting our proposal and seeing the value that applied improvisation can bring to health promotion professionals and people and conference goers in general. All of the staff were amazing and so supportive and so helpful. I went and checked out our room where we were doing the activity session, and it was just an empty room. They were having Pilates in there in the morning, and then we were going to be in there in the afternoon. I was like, we need chairs for people to sit when they're not doing exercises and stuff. And they quickly got on it and got a hold of the facilities and got 10 chairs added to it, which was perfect. So I'm just so grateful. I'm still on the conference high a little bit as we're recording this. I'm like, the conference was so much fun. And I got to meet all of these cool people, way too many to name, but everyone has a cool story and a cool connection. And I mean, at the core of it, we're there for wellness, but really deeper than that, I saw a lot of interesting themes of connection and community and play. I'll add that one of my favorite sessions at the conference was actually the first one I went to, and it was called Community as Medicine: Uplifting Connection, Belonging, Vulnerability, and Joy in Health Promotion. And it was facilitated by two speakers who lead and own and run open source wellness, and I'm going to find out more about them. But essentially, they did a whole demo of what their program is and how they run their program to help people get healthier. And they use community and connection and exercises, essentially improvisation exercises, to get people to figure out which health behaviors they want to change and how they'll change it. So we always know what we need to change and we always know what we need to do, but it's figuring out how we're going to do it. And they really used the community aspect to do that. And I love it. They didn't call it improvisation at all, but at the core of it was play and connection and community and vulnerability and joy, as there is in their title. And that was one of my favorite sessions I went to because it was so interactive and so playful. And I went to a few others that were interactive as well. And I find as an audience member, and I think we can all relate to this, the sessions with more interactivity are usually the more memorable sessions. You know, we're at a time where our attention spans are really diminished and we've got our phones buzzing. Even at a conference, you're on site at a conference, you might have your phone buzzing. It's really hard to keep an audience member's attention. So as a speaker, you have to work on that and you have to build in engagement and interactivity. It's just not enough now to show slides and information. So I really appreciate when speakers put in the effort to build engagement and connection. I know I've said those words a bunch. They are definitely buzzwords and keywords that I use, but I think you can relate too as an audience member. Those usually make for the better presentations. And of course, I want to thank Jesse for coming on. Honestly, it would have been really hard to lead 4 sessions as a solo presenter. I think doing those as a co-presenter really helped us. And I love that we bring different aspects and niches of our work to this. So Jesse is more in tune with medical improv and community improv and also leading improv exercises for little kids. I don't know if I will ever get the chance to do that. That's a very tough area with kids. Speaking of short attention spans, that's really hard and difficult to lead kids through some improv exercises. So kudos to Jesse for doing that. And then on my side, I bring more of the corporate aspect of applied improv and how it can relate to team building and leadership skills and communication skills, and also the wellness side of things, employee wellness side of things, getting out of your head and into your body. That is another term for exercising and being physically active. And I also bring in the public speaking side of applied improvisation and how that can help our public speaking skills and communication skills as well. So we make a great team is what I'm trying to say. And we definitely proved it and showed it last week at the conference. We got lunch together after and would debrief or prepare for the sessions, and we would get dinner and we would be like, that was so much fun. I can't wait to do it again tomorrow. And we got to celebrate. I mean, it was really a magical week. It was so much fun. It went better than I could have ever imagined, just going into these things. There's a lot of uncertainty of how it will go, how it will be accepted. And I'm blown away by the amount of acceptance and excitement we got about this. As Jesse mentioned before, I led an activity session last year and got really good feedback from it. But like we said, the reach that we had this year by having a breakout session and showing the research behind it, not just that this is a fun, playful tool to have, like this actually works, I think got a lot more excitement too. So really excited to see where this leads and just continuing to connect with people I met at the conference and learning about what they do. I've got some ideas for guests, so don't be surprised if I have on a few guests that I met at the conference to share their stories as well. And I do want to give a shout out to Brett Powell for coming to both of our activity sessions. So he came on Wednesday night to the activity session and then again on Thursday night. We forgot to announce that we were going to do different exercises. And he was like, oh, even if I knew what the exercises were, they'd still be different because it'd be different people and different takeaways. And we were like, yeah, you're right. So shout out to Brett for coming to both of those and getting to experience a lot of cool exercises there. And we did do different exercises. And so it was a nice surprise for him. I guess I can wrap up now, but really feeling the connection and the excitement from this. And I hope you can hear it and feel it too. We talked in this episode, we talked about a lot of things, but really one thing that I am taking away from this is the limitations, the self-imposed limitations and the self-imposed worry that I put on myself for things. It really isn't there. These are limitations that I set for myself, but it's not there. So I want to ask you, what limitations are you putting on yourself, on your dreams that aren't really there? Sure, there are some barriers in life. I'm not going to be an Olympic gold medalist volleyball player at this point. I have 4 knee injuries, and I'm okay with that. But, I'm trying to grow my business, grow this podcast. And sometimes I get in my head a little bit of like, oh, I can't do that, or oh, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough energy. And I get into the excuses. And really, I'm just advocating for my own limitations there. And that's all they are limitations. So have you been listening to your limiting beliefs and your limitations? Or can you recognize what limitations you're able to put down and push past and achieve your goals and dreams? So I want to encourage you to reflect on that and think about that. And as always, I'm always willing to hear and support you in your journey and whatever it is. Remember to infuse that play and creativity into your journey, and that can always help and just add more creativity to your journey too, whatever it may be. Let me know if anything resonated with you during this episode. I've said this before, but it really helps to share with others and kind of talk through things rather than internalizing it and keeping it in. So please feel free to share. My email is Dana, Dayna, at improvispeaking.com. Or you can find me on Instagram at improvispeaking. On LinkedIn, I'm at Dana Gowan. And you can find out more resources and information on my website at improvispeaking.com. Thank you so much again. For the wellness and health promotion professionals listening, I hope you will look into the Art and Science of Health Promotion Conference. They're amazing in what they do, and they put on a very well-run wellness conference for anyone who is involved in health and wellness within their organization. So please check that out. I'll put that in the show notes as well, how to find out more information about that. And thank you again for listening and supporting the Improvisely Speaking podcast. Say yes and flex your creative thinking and go out and crush those self-limiting beliefs. I'll talk to you next time.